Good morning. Welcome to our week 3. This is going to be a very busy week for us. Let's first recap for what we have accomplished in week 2. Week 2, we just finished talking about our organizations through a structural frame. So defining how our organizations look to us from a top-down, bottom-up reporting structure view. And having done that, that gives us a sense of the typical way that we view organizations. And for some of us, it was interesting to look at our own organizations through that lens. So for this week, we're going to do a number of things, and I'm going to suggest that they might be done in an order that would advantage you as we proceed. So the first thing then might be to take a look at the activity. So the activity, let's go ahead and back up and take a look at our framework, and we can look at the activity that way. We, through the framework, are going to be talking about really the second part of the structural frame. And so that's going to have us reading chapter 5 and taking a look at how we see that structure as through the metaphor of factory. So we'll also be looking then at the principles of change as viewed through a structural lens. We've got for this week a number of things on the agenda. We have first our activity, posting the activity, which is for this week a graphic organizational chart. And for some of you, you've got that already through your organization, and maybe you can even get it and post it, and that's fine if you do that. You just need to attribute where you got it. So posting that organizational chart, the reporting structure made visual, who reports to whom, where, and even consider stakeholders, customers, vendors, and other stakeholders who might be a part of your organization in a very particular way and an important way for understanding how your organization works. So you'll post that, and that will be our discussion, our activity that we use in the forum as a discussion. Not only will it feature there, but that's going to be a very important part of what you write for your paper. So, okay, let's then go back and look at the paper. Notice that our paper instructions are here in the right-hand part of our frame, so that we can look at the paper instructions, and the rubric that will be applied are listed here for each of the papers that we will have in this unit. And they're going to come every other week now, beginning with this week. So let's look at first our structural frame instructions. So the structural frame, then, we're going to come down here and open the structural frame. And so the instructions then, we're looking at a 4-page paper, and that's going to be true for any of the papers we write. They're all going to be 4 pages, and if you go slightly over, that's not a problem. If you go under, that will be a problem. It needs to be a 4-page paper. And each of them has a set of questions to answer. For the structural frame, we have 4 questions. What is the organization's structure? And we're looking at the graphic organizational chart, which is our activity. So it's going to be a part of both your activity and your paper this week. How does the work get done, and how do people or departments, or whatever units you have, interact with one another. So you'll have them drawn in a graphical way, and then you'll describe them in your paper, how they work together. How does that structure help or hinder the work of your organization? For example, are there some aspects of that structure that are not helpful, that might actually get in the way? Could it be that the structure could be more easy for you if it were a little bit different? So that's where you will talk about challenges to your structure, or perhaps the structure is ideal for you or close to it. What might that then be? And what does the text tell us about the structural frame? What might be useful to reframe to address your structural issue if you have one? You remember that we backed off from identifying a particular issue, so you don't necessarily have one. All right, so let's then move this out, and let's go back to our rubric. I want you to notice that the rubric is aligned exactly the way that we just had our instructions. So the directions, the organizational graphic chart was the graphic of the organization chart was depicted in detail, reporting the structure, showing the roles and authority, or the graphic of the organization depicted some of the reporting structure and shows some roles. That meets part of the requirements. Graphic of the organizational chart was not provided, so it does not meet the requirements with respect to the organization structure. Description of how work gets done. So the rubric goes through what's excellent, what barely meets, and what does not meet. In description of how the work gets done, description of how the structure helps or hinders, and a useful reframe. So notice this is just laid out in exactly the same way as our questions. I'll just come back and remind you that these were the questions on the instructions, and our rubric follows those questions question by question. Okay, so now let's go back and take a look. We've got our framework, which we just looked at. We've got a video, a look at the restructuring the top of an organization. We've got our activity, where we're going to describe using an organizational chart in a graphical way how our organization works, and that's going to feature in our paper. So the structural frame paper is due on September 13th. So that's a week from today, on Sunday. You're going to label your paper, your last name first, your first name, and then the paper title, and you'll submit it right here, right there. And so let's go back again. And then we've got a knowledge check. And that knowledge check is going to be September 13th and 14th. It opens at midnight on Sunday. So you have anytime Sunday, anytime Monday, clear till midnight on Monday. So you have 2 full days. The time limit, unless you have made specific arrangements, and there are those who have, due to a situation that is necessary for you, then your time limit is expanded. So otherwise, the time limit is 30 minutes. and you can do this twice. So that's where we are. That's this week. I look forward to it. It's going to be an exciting week, and that will get us started in taking a look at the structural frame and what we know about it. Let's have a great week.